Hello, it's me again. Time for another episode of Krush Dev Diary. Okay, so the bad news is Krush doesn't look much different this week. And the reason for that is a lot of the changes I did last weekend were on the back end. They are hidden. But the important thing is these rather boring, unglamorous changes have been done. And they are quite important. They're absolutely essential for the high score. Basically now everything, all of the statistics are being recorded to disk. So my highest score, my highest multiplier, my highest chain, how many miles I've driven, how many games I've played, all this sort of nonsense is actually now recorded, logged, and we can then, at some point in the future, we should be able to have a pretty spiffing high score table. So now we've got a couple of files which track everything that has ever happened in Krush. This is the first one, which looks like a table of numbers, which is precisely what it is. It's essentially a list of every single game that's ever been played. Well, at least since last weekend. This will be useful for showing the last games played and also some sort of session stats. In addition to this, there's also a list of records, which are the highest, longest, etc., etc. That sort of stat. Here's the text file in question. You can see we track a few statistics and they're all listed like that, just in plain text. I don't really see any reason of making it more obscure than that for now. Plain text is easy to write, easy to read, and it's extensible because I'm not quite sure every single stat that I'll need to track. So yeah, the whole back-end bookkeeping system's in place now anyway, and it works, as far as I can tell, flawlessly. That was the major thing that I planned to do, and it's the major thing that I did. What else did I do? I made a list of different things. Let's see, I changed the camera slightly. If you look in the first video, the Krush Dev Diary 1, there's a small amount of Z rotation, which is around the central axis. That was one of the last things I put in before the session last week, and I've got to say I didn't much care for it, so I removed it. I changed the phase length from 5 seconds to a minute, which is why the colours aren't changing as often in this footage. The original Krusher had phases that lasted a minute, and I think that's about right. So yeah, you see how colour changes slightly there at 2 minutes. I think I'm going to delineate the difficulty ramp into discrete phases, and then I can have a colour change of the background, and you know stuff's getting real when things get more and more intense. And that's about it. That's about it. Like I say, a lot of back-end work, and this was my first session in a while, so there was a bit of getting back into the saddle. So, this session, the session that I'm about to embark on, my focus is going to be the arena. I'm not happy with the colour selections. I'm not happy with the variegation either. There's only a single arena tile, and I would quite like to change that. So, in fact, I am going to change that. I'm going to have, I think, at least a small selection of arena tiles. And I'd maybe like to look into some interactive elements. One of the things I'd like to do is have, as the difficulty gets harder and harder, I'd like holes to appear in the arena floor that you can drop out of and, well, obviously subsequently die. I wouldn't mind having some obstacle blocks as well, you know, raised blocks that you can crash into that could prove challenging. So yeah, I wanted to do something explicit. I wanted to do something visual for next week rather than, you know, the boring bookkeeping stuff I did last week. So the arena is what I'm going to look at. There's a few different visual aspects I'd like to look at. I mean, I'm not 100% happy with the car and the dozer sprites, and I think these are things that will eventually change. But we'll look at those in respective weeks. I'll probably spend a week on the car, I think, as yeah, I don't know. The art style just doesn't fit in with what I have in mind. I want something a little bit more stylistic. It's nice, but the sprite dates back to like 2008. It was supposed to be for the original X&A remake of Krusher that never quite came to fruition. Here's a fun fact for you. It was actually the reason my channel's called Xbox Ahoy is because of Krusher. I was originally planning to build a version of it for the X&A program and get it on the Xbox Live Indie Games section. And that's the whole idea of Xbox Ahoy. It was my quest to get a game on the Xbox. But, well, I discovered there was more money in making Call of Duty videos, and the rest is history, as they say. So yes, to summarise, boring changes this week, not much to show you, but they are very important changes. Next week, the arena should look a little bit different, should be a little more interesting. It's kind of homogenous at the minute, and I want to change that. I want to have a center tile that marks the position that you start and also gives you an indication of where you are relative to the edges. And I just want to make the whole sort of the arena a little bit more interesting and maybe think about ways in which I can make it dynamic. I don't know if I'll be able to do much in the way of interactivity. I mean, the idea of having dynamically falling and raising tiles and having all the animations behind that sounds kind of daunting. But I might give it a go. I reckon I can get a few hours of development in today, and that might be enough to make some changes anyway. So, until next week, farewell.